This climb has taught me a lesson that I'd wish I'd learned a lot earlier. It's something that's been holding me back, and having talked with other climbers about this realization, it seems to be an extremely common problem amongst beginners. It has nothing to do with hangboarding or strength training or anything like that, and it's not directly related to my technique either. Instead, I had to learn what it really means for a climb to be a project, and the important lessons that you can learn from trying a climb that just feels really hard. I've always had this threshold for what I'd consider a hard climb. On one side of that threshold, there were the hard climbs that I knew I could do. That usually meant maybe I'd have to give it 5 tries maximum, and then I'd have finished my quote-unquote project. And with those, there might be like one hard move that I'd struggle with, or other times it would just be I'd be struggling my entire way up like I was doing on this climb right here. And then on the other end of that hard threshold was the climbs were just simply impossible. Now, they weren't impossible for everyone, as I'd see other people make them just look so easy, but they'd be impossible for me. There'd be a move that I just had no way of doing. So after a handful of attempts of trying it, I'd write it off as, I've only been doing this for like 6 months. I need to get more practice. Or I guess I just need to keep on working on my technique. Or maybe it was, I'm not flexible enough for this one, and then I'd decide to move on to another easier climb. But then I ran into a little bit of a problem at my gym. All of the climbs at one grade weren't that hard. They were in that sort of one side of the threshold of hard, where they might challenge me, but they weren't that hard. Or we'd go up a grade and they were just all in that impossible side of the threshold, where a lot of the time I wouldn't even be able to get onto the climb, never mind not being able to do the first move. But I'd often hear advice about just trying climbs that were super hard. Don't worry about finishing them. Just learn how to do that one move or a couple of moves on it, and that you can learn a lot just by doing that. Which brings us back to this climb right here that I've been struggling with for several weeks now. And this climb taught me both what it means to actually project a climb, not something that takes 5 attempts to do, but also I learned 3 valuable lessons in projecting it as well. And the very first lesson that I learned through all of this is don't give up on something because it seems hard at first. Here where I had to get my foot up onto the right foothold or the next foothold over literally seemed like something that would be impossible for me. I really was in that mindset of I'm not flexible enough to be able to get my leg up to there. It literally seemed like something I wouldn't be able to do. But when I came back on my next session, I was looking at the climb and I'm like, I'm going to give it one more try just to see. And I managed to get my foot on it on the very first try. Now, figuring out what to do from that point on was a little bit of a different story, but right away it really did feel like an accomplishment. I had honestly thought it was a move that I was unable to make, and then I proved myself wrong, and I was really happy with that. And not only could I make it, I could now consistently make it, which is pretty awesome, because sometimes a hard move is still really hard every single time. And the second lesson I learned from this, and in a way, it's about the little things, which, as you saw there, I just touched that with my fingertips. And that, for me, was a pretty big win. And these little incremental improvements or other things like that, I think, are super important. Like, if you're trying a move like this one, and before that, I wasn't even getting close to it. And then I got my fingertips on it. And I knew that I was getting closer. And that gave me the confidence I needed to continue to try, because it's like, yes, that was something, that was progress. If that was on an easier climb that maybe I do it in like 5 attempts, like, oh, that would just be a screw up and I didn't make it, I didn't get the hold. But on something like this where I couldn't make it, and then just getting my fingertips on it, that was something that was worth celebrating and being happy about. And then from there, I can continue to make progress and get a little bit more of a hand on it, skinning it with my fingertips, to actually getting a finger on it, to almost getting a hold on it, to then getting my hand on it, and then falling off. even though I was convinced that if I could get my hand on it properly, like I did there, that I would actually be able to hold it. But it actually turned out to be a little bit worse of a hold than I'd anticipated it would be. But yeah, that I think was a really important lesson for me, was focusing on the little wins. And finally, the third thing I learned was the importance of precision. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of the time on my early climbs, I'd be doing drills based on things I'd be learning from YouTube videos and advice I'd hear from other people about, like, doing footwork drills where you're being very mindful on the early climbs of exactly where you're positioning your feet, even though it's easy. But it didn't really matter if you'd get it wrong. Whereas on a climb like this, it was really important. And in this example, when I finally got my hand and I held it and I was like, oh my goodness, I have this. Oh, and then I had to put my hand out and grab that purple hold there. And I didn't really care. I was so happy to finally be here. And I'd actually done this green climb on the right side a few times previously to get myself roughly in this position to know how to do the top. But now that I actually got to this point doing it, climbing up the way I wanted to, I was in a bit of shock and a bit lost, but I just wanted to go through the routine of like practicing the top again, because I'd only gone through this once or twice before. And so at this stage, I'd proved to myself that I was able to do it, but I obviously knew was doing something wrong. And I guess this ties in a little bit with that last one too, where I said like being very intentional with like the smaller details. It's the same thing here, that precision that had to come into this, because as we're going to see here, I actually got it here, and then I ended up barn dooring off, and you can see my arm like flailing, and I'm just like, why am I barn dooring all of a sudden? And I had to think, okay, like what's causing that barn door to happen? And I thought about it for a little while. I'm like, I'm probably facing out a little bit too much, and I think I could keep my hip like glued to the wall. And so, yeah, knowing that and knowing all the lessons that I'd learned along the way and being very mindful about everything I was doing through these different steps, I gave it my all. It went really well, and it wasn't that hard that time when I did everything properly. But really what that showed was how much progress I'd made, because the first time I got on this, I couldn't do the first move, and now I was able to complete the entire thing without it feeling difficult. And thinking about that, wow, that's awesome. And it's just so good feeling that progress from all of those things that I learned in being able to send this climb, and learning what it really means to project and the benefits of projecting a climb that just feels really, really hard.